back. For the first time in many, many years, I'm to talk for only 45 minutes, which is going to be a challenge. So I'll skip all the boring part and then jump straight into it. This session here is about supporting the mobile workload that we might have, all of the clients that are on the internet or, never really come into the office or only come into the office once or twice per week or once or twice per month. We have a couple of challenges. One of them, of course, being security. How can we patch a client that we cannot control? And as you all know, those of you who are working with SCCM, it's super reliable and super fast. I have to say that because there was a speaker in here in the session just before lunch that said something about 30 minutes, and I have no idea what he was talking about. So just to introduce myself, my name is Kent. I'm from Copenhagen, but spent a lot of my time traveling around, and I will also be back here in Utrecht or in Kollenberg in 3 weeks for a more in-depth training on everything that I'm going to talk about here. I'm an MVP and a Microsoft Regional Director, and that's not the same as saying I know everything about the product, but it's just, the same as saying I have some really good friends, and some of them are writing the code, which is always super useful, right? So whenever you see, an MVP, don't expect that they know everything. Some do, some are really smart, but you can always ask them and challenge them because they have good connections back, and that's really pretty useful. I work for CT Global, which is a global service provider. So we provide consulting on everything enterprise client management, Azure Stack, and all of that smart stuff. So the session here is, what's to come. I don't know if any of you attended Ignite last week, but those of you who did, hopefully you saw some of the few SCCM InTune sessions that were there, and you have heard about Windows Autopilot and maybe also heard about the co-management. I'm going to show you a little of that because that's going to be super, super interesting here. How do we get to the other side? And the other side being, cloud management. And I know a lot of you go like, no, we're not going to do that. For many, many, many reasons. But at one point, you have to have at least a hybrid setup. And how do we go to that hybrid setup? Some of you might want to do, complete cloud transition. That's super easy if you're like the company I talked to yesterday. They're like, hey, we just started up last year, and now we're 800, and we're working in a work group. Can we do that a little smarter? Like, yeah, Office 365 and all of that good stuff. That's an easy big jump. But for most organizations, there is no easy big jump. So we're going to address that. And then Configuration Manager and EMS go hand in hand. I get this question all the time. Is Configuration Manager going to go away? And the answer is yes. But not today, not tomorrow, not in 2 years, not in 5 years. It's going to stick around as long as we have a client that we can actually manage or we do manage. And right now we are managing with the latest version 100 million clients. And every quarter that's just increasing. And I hear it almost on a weekly basis that, hey, InTune is going to take over. And it might be at one point, but not right now. Instead, what we will do is we'll figure out, what workload is best to support in InTune and what workload is best to support in SCCM, and then be smart about it and go hybrid. And we can do that from. I'm just looking at the clock here because I expect that they release a new version later today. So usually they release technical previews on a Friday. They didn't release it last week because of Ignite. So I think there might be a fair chance that we'll see a new TP version today. And that TP version should have co-management so we can actually start working with that. So where is it we want to be? Well, you probably heard about Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 is a set of services, and one of those services is, of course, we have Windows 10, we have Office 365, and then in the middle here, we have our management option. So we have the EMS suite, and the EMS suite is not only InTune, it actually also includes SCCM. So if you want to carry on managing your environments using SCCM, you're still part of this journey here. One of our challenges, or a lot of our challenges, is around the whole enrollment or the deployment. I've done a ton of Windows 10 imaging, and I kind of like it because, we have done it so many years, right? 10, 15, 20 years. But it's taking away so much time in an SCCM project or in any, Windows 10 project. It can easily take 5, 10, 15 days to create the reference images the way we want them. And then that's an ongoing process, once a month or at least once a quarter, we go in and we spend not 10 days, but we still spend some time rebuilding those images and getting them approved again and so on and so forth by security. And when we ship them to the end users, honestly, most of the end users, they don't really care. The only thing they care about is that they get the image and it's still not done. They have to wait half a day to get the applications because we have the famous 30 minutes from SCCM or something like that. So my message here is no matter what we do, often the end users, they have to wait anyway to get everything up and running. So one of the things that will change, and I think that will hit us big next year. It will hit us big next year because then the vendors will also play along. I'll talk about that a little later. But this is definitely going to change the whole enrollment process. Then the analytics part. So this is actually a deck I stole from Microsoft, and then I just, I thought, hey, let me make it a little bit more, real life. So I added in our own inside analytics in here on top of Microsoft Windows Analytics, because that's super important, figuring out how many active clients do we have. So if I only have 75% active clients, how on earth am I going to patch them so I reach 100% compliance? I cannot do that. So if you cannot manage your clients on the internet, there is no way that your boss will be happy because you will never reach 100%. So having inside analytics and understanding those data is super crucial. I'll explain that as well. So if we want to take the journey and become what we call, modern managed, can we do that overnight? At one point, I believe that Microsoft thought, hey, we just, make InTune look super sexy and everybody hates, their old management platform, and then they'll just do it, overnight. And then someone realized that, hey, you know what, I have 500, 600, 700 Win32 applications. Even if I wanted to, I could not migrate those applications. Some of the applications, we can't even contact the vendor anymore because the vendor is doesn't exist, or the guy, he passed away, or whatever. And that's just real life. That up here, the Win32 to modern apps, is for us the biggest obstacle to move to modern management. So there is no way we can do a big jump without getting all of these 500, 600 applications with us on board. But we slowly want to take this route. So what can we do today? Today, what I'll show you is all the stuff here in the blue. Install Windows 10 that you need. We can still manage Windows 7 on the internet, but there's a ton of the smart stuff we cannot do. So don't worry too much about Windows 7. But change or think about changing your imaging process to what we call signature image. So signature image is, the story we have heard so many times. I go into Best Buy or supermarket or whatever, I get a device, and then I just start enrolling it. I kid you not, if I say that if I'm back here next year, based on your evaluations, then at least 5 or 10% of the audience will be enrolling images. Because we get that question all the time at our company. Even enterprise organizations, like 80, 90,000, they want to take this route. They don't want to do it for all of their employees, but they have a huge mobile workforce, people who are never coming into the office, or salespeople who only comes to the office when it's Christmas party. And for all of them, what we're doing today is we get the laptop, we re-image it, and then we ship it. So that process might take, like 5, 6, 7, 8 working days before they actually get it. It's way faster, way more efficient if we can just switch to what we call a signature image. And a signature image is a hardware model without all the, I would say crap, but this one here is being recorded. So I would say without all of the unnecessary software that we don't need. So it's just a pure Windows image. And then once I start the enrollment process, the first thing I'll do is just type in my username and my password, and then it will automatically be assigned. At that point, it's already automatically assigned to my tenant. So I'll see stuff like my company logo. You as administrators, you can customize what I see, what I have to sign into, and stuff like that. So it will always, or it will already from the beginning here be a kind of, okay, I kind of feel at home here. Now, another challenge is, all the GPO settings we have. So we started creating group policies back in 1999 when we got Windows 2000 Active Directory, and we never stopped. And some of you're really good, so you have documented all your group policies, and you cleaned up once a year. Some of you, and don't raise your hands, some of you might have done like others I've seen, just create a new one on top of that. Don't really document anything, but I know if I touch something over here, then over here, all of a sudden, some machines, they're unable to log in and what have you. And that's always a huge challenge when we do Windows 10 projects. Question?
I have a question about previous, about a signature image.
Yeah.
You have to be Azure joined to get policies from cloud or your installation from the cloud? Or
Yeah. So the question is about the signature image here. What is the underlying architecture for that? The answer to that is it comes in 2 slides. Is that okay? But your assumptions are right. That you need to. But I have the entire process, so I will be showing you the process. So I was talking about the group policies, and there are so many group policies, and if we try to convert them into what we call MDM policies, we don't have a one-to-one match between all the existing group policies and the new stuff that we can go in and configure. So that's also a challenge. But the challenge is also to figure out, of all of those hundreds and hundred group policies, which one are you actually using? And I'm not saying that's easy. It's definitely not easy. And we have a tool called IMMap or IMMATS that in theory can help us. And it will also help us, but often it's showing more red than it should. But it's still a good tool because it will start the mental journey. And this is really about, that's really, this process here is not only IT, it's also a mental, can we trust our end users and so on and so forth. So why are we not all nowadays, in the cloud, fully managed in the cloud? We've heard the message from Microsoft for, like almost 3 years. Well, I'll tell you what I believe is the last 2-3 years, they have been talking about a big switch transition. So we all get in the bus, and then we just happily roll over to the island, and now we're managed. But we can't do that. I mean, just imagine I'm a hospital, and we have all these old applications that we rely on. Our patients are kind of they want to have those apps. They know they're working, so they trust us with their life. We can't just do a big switch. I mean, that's a big no-go. It doesn't. The real world doesn't act like that. Then we can do a group-by-group transition. But all of a sudden now, as a company, we have like 2, 3, 4 different management platforms, and nobody wants that. We don't have the manpower to do that. That's just real life. One day your manager might say, "Hey Ken, tomorrow I want you to focus on Azure." So tomorrow I focus on Azure, and then all of a sudden he comes in and he asks about, "Hey, by the way, they just released some patch. Now you need to follow up on that." There's no way I can spend my time on all of this. So what we have coming here now is building a bridge. So I can go on a journey. I can go into this bridge here in my own pace, and then I can say, okay, I know I'm going to have 2 different, management portals for a while, but I can offload the workload that I want to offload. So I can still have a fully managed SCCM client, but when I want to do some of the conditional access, let's do that in InTune. So all of a sudden now my Windows client understands 2 different management tools, InTune and SCCM, but it does know that SCCM is controlling these parts, InTune is controlling that part. And that, I'm just guessing, but I'm pretty sure this one here will help us all. And as I said, next year, at least 5, 10, maybe even 20% of you will be co-managed, because there are so many benefits here. Back to your question. So what does all of this take? Well, I have my configuration manager server over here, so it means that it won't change. I mean, I need a new version, of course, version 17.10. I will still be managing my old legacy client 7, 8, 8.1, whatever, using the configuration manager client. But my Windows 10 machines, when I enroll the Windows 10 machines, Windows 10 has a built-in MDM agent. So when I enroll it, I will Azure AD register it. So there's your answer. When I do that, it will automatically be enrolled into InTune. And as one of the first thing that will happen is that in InTune, I have the SCCM application. So I have uploaded that application. That's right now, at first it's going to be a manual process. So I will just get, the SCCM application installed there. And I will also be able to domain join. So it will do an offline domain join. So now I have an Azure AD registered machine and a domain joined machine, because that's the other big stopper here. I need all of my domain policies. I need all of this good stuff. Otherwise, I can't manage my machines. So this is really the idea behind co-management. You will have two different scenarios. You'll have, some of you already have Windows 10 deployed. So what can you do here? For those of you, you can go into SCCM, into the SCCM portal, and then you can create a policy. So you can go into co-management in there, and you can say, I want to create a policy. I want to target this collection. And then when you target that collection, those machines, they will be AAD registered, and then you will offload the workloads that you have configured in that policy, and then they will be managed by InTune partially. For new machines, new devices, you just enroll them using Autopilot. And if you haven't seen Autopilot before, Autopilot is almost like Apple DEP, the Apple Device Enrollment Program. If you haven't seen that, then it's like a bootstrap. So Autopilot is what will make it automatically enrolled into my environment, into my tenant. So every device has a unique hardware ID. That hardware ID, before I start the enrollment process, will be merged into my tenant. So as soon as I get an internet connection, the device will automatically recognize that, hey, I belong to this tenant. Hence, I can get my policies, your company policies here. So Autopilot, look at that as just, a bootstrap mechanism to really enroll my device here. So just stop me if you have any questions. I need to go over here because I haven't looked at the time here. So in SCCM, a couple of things that we need when we talk infrastructure. You need to have the Cloud Management Gateway, period. The Cloud Management Gateway is right now in a pre-release mode, meaning that part of the code, they're not super happy with the quality, where other parts of the code is working like it should be. I hope they will remove it from pre-release into a real production feature. Having said that, I've been running this at 4 or 5 customers now since December, and they are managing their internet-based clients using this one here. So the Cloud Management Gateway is an Azure service. Instead of you spinning up a management point and a software update point and distribution point in your DMZ environment, you just spin it up in Azure. And then clients will automatically, when I start a client, I need to demo something, otherwise it would be a little too wrong. So when I start a client here, this client, it's Friday. This client here will automatically see if it can connect to a domain controller. If it cannot connect to a domain controller, it will also try to see if it can connect to a management point. If it cannot do that, it goes like, I must be on the internet. When it's on the internet, it will automatically fall back to the Cloud Management Gateway. So now it's going to read the policies from the Cloud Management Gateway here. And that means, if I look at I did this kind of before we went in here. If I start deploying There you are. If I start deploying any, Windows updates or policies, configuration items, anything like that, they will just download. And for Windows Update, I can tell the client, don't even try to get them from the Cloud Distribution Point, which is another Azure service. Go straight into WSUS or to Windows Microsoft Updates and download all of the content from there. Because if you do that, you don't have to pay for the content. If you download it from your own Cloud Distribution Point, you have to pay. And you're paying enough as it is already, probably, right? So there is no reason for you to do this. So this one here is, completely seamless. As a client, I don't know if I'm on the internet or if I'm not on the internet. The agent is going to figure this out automatically. Any of you running the old version of IBCM, where you have a DM set and a management point and all of that? Yeah. Is it easy to manage? A little? I can tell you, I've been doing SCCM since '96, and in all of the project meetings, it's always like, yes, we want to manage clients on the internet. And then when I realize, all the PKI requirements, all of the other requirements, and a couple of extra servers and so on, at least half of them, they never do it. So I would guess half the room in here, you don't have any support for internet-based clients. Or you will say to me, well, we have VPN. Yeah, that's pretty cool. We had that in the 90s too. But we cannot rely on VPN anymore. We haven't been able to rely on VPN ever since with the Exchange and Outlook, you didn't have to create a VPN tunnel to get your mail. Now most end users, they're simply not motivated to open up or establish the tunnel here. So on my SCCM server, what I have on my SCCM server here, if I go into administration, I have a couple of things. So I've established, this one here is really, I'll tell you what it says so those of you in the cheap seats can see it. So what I've done is I've done Azure Active Directory user discovery. So when I try to authenticate, if I'm Azure AD joined, it will actually use my user credentials to do the authentication. So that's, me communicating with the Cloud Management Gateway. This is a 1706 feature. And, here I've done it. This is not even my real tenant. This is actually Peter's tenant that I'm just borrowing. But if I have the right credentials, they don't have to belong to the same environment or anything like that. So that's kind of cool. But this gives me a list of all my Azure AD users. And what I'm saying here is that I'm building the trust. The second thing I have is I have my Cloud Management Gateway. So with my Cloud Management Gateway, when I configured this, I can go in on my management point and my software update point and say, these two services or site system roles that I have, they will now, allow me to relay CMG traffic to these boxes. So they will just service internet clients as well as internal clients. And I don't need to set up any HTTPS on them, so they don't need any certificates at all. I only need to set that up in Azure, in the Azure service. So I have some statistics here, so I can see how many requests we have had. I can also see, the role endpoints. That would just be more specific, exactly what kind of traffic have we had here. But this will give me support for the management point and the software update point. Lastly, if you want to do cloud distribution points, if you want to do like, hey, I want to deploy, let's say, Office and some of the other good stuff, then you have to set up a cloud distribution point because the Cloud Management Gateway will not give you that. And the cloud distribution point has been around since 2012 Service Pack 1. Not many of you have really used it because you couldn't use that without a management point, and we didn't have a management point in the cloud before current branch here. So those are the two services that I'm utilizing, and they're both Azure services. Right? And the cloud distribution point is almost like any other distribution point. So you need to ensure that you have, distributed your content and it's all the packages. So it could be your software update packages, it could be your third-party software update packages. If you want to do that, it can you be here, see I've distributed boot images as well and what have you. So these are the things that I can go back home today and do it. And today is Friday, so that's a fantastic day, instead of spending time with your family, seriously. So set this up tonight, and then we have co-management. Co-management is different. It is not released yet, but I don't know if you can see this up here. But up here I have, my cloud services co-management. So this is, right now me building the bridge between the old world and the island. The first thing I have to do is I have to go in and say, this is my InTune, my InTune credentials, because I have to go in and inform InTune that, hey, now we're going to work together, right? So I need to have the right credentials to do that. This will all be a part of 17.10, so it's not released yet. Once I have done that, then I will go in and specify. So what is look, I'm doing this without hands. What is going to be my enrollment? Am I going to do this against a pilot? Just go in and specify collection, or am I the brave kind of guy, so I'll do it, big bang everywhere. What we have here is, this is what I'm going to copy to my SCCM application. So this is the installation string for my SCCM app. So this is what I'm going to upload into InTune. And here I have my workloads. So I could say, well, I want to do compliance policies in InTune, or I might want to do resource access policies in InTune. And especially this one here, resource access policies, I don't see a reason why you don't want to do that in InTune, because it's all in Azure anyway. Your conditional access and some of that stuff. So offload that. And then I specify my my pilot group, and then the one, the exclusion group. And funny enough, it's always the managers who wants to do this. They want to lower the cost and everything, and they always want to be excluded. So yeah, that's just how it is. So this is the policy. This is co-management, and this is what I'm saying. I'm a strong believer that this will take off. Because now I'm in complete control. I can do it against, a subset of just 500 machines and what have you, only these workloads here. And these clients will still be able to get software packages from SCCM. They will still be able to get, inventory, upload that to SCCM and all of that good stuff. The workloads you saw in the video, those are only the first, so more workloads will come. As they further develop this one here. This one will be technical preview, they said so. And it will also, as I mentioned, be in 17.10 here. But it looks kind of cool, right? So, as I mentioned, the Cloud Management Gateway, what we are trying to solve here is, traditional management for roaming users. And it has to be easy. It has to be easy to manage, because if it's not easy to manage, it won't work. I've seen so many times that, IBCM, yeah, it used to work, but now, the guy who was taking care of that, he doesn't work here anymore, and now it simply doesn't work, because it's too complex. So this one here will change that game there. What you need is, an Azure subscription. You need certificates, but not certificates on your management point and software update point, but your client will need the root certificate, right? Your clients probably already have that certificate. In Azure, when you go in and create the Azure service, you will also have a web server certificate. So you need to create one certificate unless you're using, a public one here. When you do that, it will automatically upload the cert. I've seen a couple of times that you don't upload the right certs, then you don't have any communication, nothing really works. Once you get that working, it's pretty stable. By default, you're spinning up one virtual machine. If you need to spin up more, and let's say that we have, it could be, another outbreak of WannaCry, and we go like, hey, we need to patch all of our 200,000 machines right now. you would probably spin up some more CMGs here, and then patch everything, and then just delete them again. Any of you set up a Cloud Management Gateway already? Peter, you don't count? No, none of you? Don't be too alarmed about it's residing in Azure. I know there are a couple of things when stuff is in Azure, you go like, I don't know about the price. I can tell you, from what I've seen, managing those 5 clients there, is the price for them in average is like less than 500 euros per month. And that's because the majority of the traffic that I worry about is my software updates, and we don't pay for that. So when I go into, if I just go back in here into my SCCM environment, if I go into my software update deployments, if I have one, there you go. Then you'll see down here that if software updates are not available on a distribution point in my neighborhood, then just download them from Microsoft Updates. And by default, if you're on the internet, then we are not really looking at boundary groups and what have you, so they will automatically go to Microsoft Updates. So the only thing you really have to pay for is when clients are downloading policies, and they're doing that every 60 minutes by default. And that in total, if you have a default client that is operational 24/7, that's like 150 to 200 megabytes per week. So that's going to be your cost, more or less, if you have an internet-based client. And then we can go in and look at what does it really cost to download a gigabyte. And I think that cost is like 70 cents or something. It's like insanely cheap for the first 10 terabytes. Of course, you still need to pay for the service itself, but it's not really the cost that is going to be the issue here. And what can possibly go wrong when we are playing around? It's the things that I've seen is always the certs, right? So I wrote a couple of blog posts up here where you can go in and see if you have, hopefully most of you have a sub-CA. You don't do like they're doing somewhere on the West Coast when they're testing all of this. They just have a single PKI tier, and then they're testing and think everything is okay when we release it. And then they realize the whole world is running, a 2-tier PKI infrastructure. That was interesting the first time. But it's typically the certificates. So I have you kind of a walkthrough guide here where you can see, okay, if you're seeing this error, then check this. If you're seeing this error, it's probably this. So that's really the things that can go wrong. Then I talked about, the pain of creating images. And it's not because I don't understand it, because I've been creating images for many, many years now. It's so time-consuming every single time, which is good for me because I'm the consultant. But I much rather spend more time, talking to you about other stuff instead of, creating another WIM image. So this is what we are trying to get away from. And instead, what we are trying to do is we try to go into the enrollment process. But getting into the enrollment process is not going to be easy. Right now, Microsoft, they released a service that they call Windows Autopilot. It's not, in my opinion, enterprise ready. It will be from 2018, hopefully the first quarter in 2018, which will give us enough time to go in, learn about the process, set it up in a demo, and so on and so forth. And the reason why I'm saying it will be enterprise ready in 2018 is because then the hardware vendors is actually going to play along. Question?
The cloud version of WSIM or something?
If what, sorry?
The cloud-based version of WSIM, Windows System Image Manager?
So the question is if it's a cloud version of Windows Imaging Manager. No, it's not really. So what this is, and I'm going to show this in just a few seconds here, but what it is it's what we call self-service deployment. You go down, you buy yourself this laptop here, and then when you plug it in, it will automatically, as I mentioned, it has a unique hardware device ID. That device ID is already paired with your InTune tenant. So when that happens, the autopilot, the bootstrap process there, will just make sure that you get enrolled into Azure AD, and you get, managed by InTune. Once you're managed by InTune, then, it belongs to us. Then we can do whatever we want to do with the device, more or less. But there are a couple of challenges. I mean, we have been able to do this for the last 2 years, enrolling Windows 10 in Azure AD and then get InTune. But the things we are faced with there is, as an end user, I will become a local administrator. Being a local administrator is super important, right? Except if you're trying to manage an organization. So we don't want to be local administrators. I will also be presented with license agreements. I work in IT, I have no idea what it says, so I just click I agree. But all of a sudden, on behalf of my company, right there, I agreed on some license terms that I really don't understand. So management don't want me to do that. And there might also be other, as I enroll, it's going to ask me, so are you going to join, Active Directory, or what are you going to do? And I have no clue. I'm just an end user. So I'll just click on the button with the most colors. I mean, that makes sense, right? So even though there might only be like 5 steps and I have a guide, I'm going to make all the wrong choices. So that's the reason why, enrolling in Windows 10 without autopilot is not going to take off. But it will once we get autopilot here. So when we get autopilot, I will know about the device ID. So I will go in right now into the Windows Store for Business, and I will say, this is the device ID, I want to apply this policy. Just like we're doing with Apple DEP today, we have these policies for these users here. Of course, that won't work in the real world, because how on earth am I going to get this device ID if you go down to Best Buy and buy the device? It's not like I can call you and say, hey, you mind booting up your machine and press 25 keys while you're saying something and then give me a device ID? It will never work. So I need the vendors. So I need the vendors to be able to upload, the device IDs. Hey, these are the device IDs we have for you. Upload them into my tenant. I will approve that. And then, once we start shipping you the devices, then they are already paired together. So what it will look like when I receive this package here is, this will all happen automatically, right? So, I might just be going in and saying I want this keyboard layout. Once I connect to a network, accept that. Then it's going to enroll into InTune. So I'm just going to type in my username. So today I'm Anna. It's Friday, so why not? Type in my password, and all the magic just happens in the background here. So now I'm enrolled into InTune. While I'm enrolling into InTune, it's going to install my business applications. So you can see here I have, Office and whatever. And it's also, if I have OneDrive, going to synchronize my personal files and so on and so forth. And yes, this requires that you have Azure Active Directory. And this also requires, that you have InTune. So this will happen automatically. It requires that you have 1709, so the latest version of Windows 10. It will require that your tenant is updated, your InTune tenant is updated. That will happen very soon, hopefully. And it will also require that you have SCCM if you want to get the SCCM agent here and do all of that co-management stuff. That's the reason why I'm saying we want to learn about it now, and then we want to spend Q4 on trying to set this up internally, and it doesn't take that long to set it up. And then from the beginning of next year, you're going to pilot this. I'm pretty sure you will be. And yeah, this is a video because no Office has never installed so fast before, ever. So, any questions on? So this is my screen here is pretty stable. That one is not. So any questions on the process here? It can be, well, that's a good question. So is it only applicable on enterprise devices, or can it work on any device? Well, I still need the hardware ID. So if so that kind of, answers the question, because if, let's just stop that, please. So where did I have you? As it is right now, then when oh, it's in Danish. So I hope most of you are speaking Danish, or at least reading it. It's not that difficult. It's like, wow. So this is actually devices. Everybody can see it's devices, right? So this is my device. What I did was I added the device here. So I had a CSV file, with the serial number, the product ID, and so on and so forth. I need that. So if you just go in anywhere and buy any device, then right now we don't have that. Hopefully, is that rain? Cool. I'm going to spend the weekend here. Thanks, guys. Hopefully, maybe that will change. But right now, that's how it is.
Can I have another question?
Yeah.
SCCM integration with the Azure, with the gateway, and also with the distribution point that's on the cloud. That's only for internet-based clients, or also applicable for inside clients?
So the cloud management gateway, there are two questions there. So the cloud management gateway. Yeah, and that's so if we take the cloud management gateway first, that one will only be when I'm external. If I cannot connect to a domain controller or management point, right? The distribution point, the cloud distribution point, if you add that to one of your boundary groups, then it will actually participate, but it will always try to use one of your local distribution points first from a boundary group, but you could tweak that.
The reason why I'm asking is that there is, to be practical, it's actually a requirement to have an express route or something like that.
I'm not here. Not here.
All right.
So, but that's a good one. So we don't need the express route or anything like that. Yeah, as long as I have an internet connection, then we are using the certificates to establish the trust, and you're just using the internet as a backbone. So yeah, I should have said that, but no, that's not a requirement. That will make it cheaper, right? We had another question? Yeah.
Isn't it insecure that you can add your own serial number or device ID to?
Oh, this is only, yeah, so that's a good observation. So isn't it a bit insecure that I can add my own serial number in here? Well, this is me as the administrator. So hopefully someone trusts me. This is me going in here and say, I want to add in this CSV file with the device IDs. So it's not the end user. Because if it was the end user, you're absolutely right.
And if you get a CSV file from your vendor, what's the time in it?
Yeah, so if I...
Then you're managing someone else's computer.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. That we're doing already today, but that's another session. That would also happen today when you have Apple DP. What if you're getting a different device ID and all of a sudden, yeah. But we have seen that before with the NIC drivers. At one point I remember one of the vendors sending out a huge batch of NIC drivers, all with the same MAC address. It's like shouldn't happen, but it happened. Yeah, but what will happen here is. When I receive the CSV file, so when that one is uploaded from Lenovo, then I will go in and I have to approve it first, and then I can see the list. And it's not like I've memorized all the device IDs, I know that, but I still have to go in and approve this one here. But you're right, it's a different one. It's not me being in charge anymore, in the basement, imaging 25 machines and handing them over. now this is different. But you're already doing that today. I mean, most people are going down there buying their iPhone, right? You don't necessarily gift the iPhone to them, and then they just enroll it. Any follow-up comments?
In the future, the vendor will upload it automatically to the autopilot database.
Yeah.
Customer importing.
Yeah. So that's what Peter is saying, that the vendors will automatically upload it, and then you will have to go in and approve it still. So it's not like the vendor is in control in any way. And that's what's going to happen from Q1, hopefully 2018. So they have already made arrangements with HP, Lenovo, Fujitsu. Dell was not up there, but I know that they're talking to Dell because, of course, we need Dell up there as well, and Dell want to be there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I said in the beginning, I have 45 minutes, and I'm just about over time. So if you wanna, stop by and learn how we do all of this, this is what we do in the training class that we have here with the PDS in late October, I think it is. So we're going to play around with all the advanced SCCM stuff. We're going to look at how we do the Azure integration, do the Windows 10 autopilot, and all of that good stuff there. If you want to hear more from me, or just get in contact, Twitter is fine. If you can find me on Facebook, I normally just accept. It's like, hey, another friend. So I'm friends with everybody. And for those of you who are local here, you don't want to miss this this next user group meeting, because DJ, or David James, who's like the father of SCCM, is going to be around. And I've seen him several times, and I can tell you that's going to be the best meeting that they ever had in this user group, because he knows everything. I mean, he's the one signing off and saying, okay, this code can be, go in, this cannot, and so on. And he always has some really good stories. And yeah, and it will not be recorded, I guess. No. So you have to show up there. When is the meeting? October 20. It says right there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Where is it?
Near Utrecht, around this area.
Okay, so it's around here somewhere. But I mean, you have everything on the meetup here, right? So you have all the details. Just go in and sign up there. Cool. I'll be outside answering any questions that you might have, or if you just want to chat. Please remember to evaluate the session in here, especially if you want me to come back next year, so I can count the 10-15% that are doing autopilot. And besides that, just thanks for coming.